Commissioner Cole.
Holy Father, Lord, we do thank you for this day and our many blessings. Lord, we're thankful for this great country that we live in, the freedoms that we have. We just pray that you'd be with our leaders as they make decisions for us. That our nation would be much better than what it is. We pray now for the proceedings of this meeting, that you would give us wisdom and guidance. And we pray for our first responders and servicemen and women, that you would be with them and give them safety. We all ask all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Oh, there she is.
I'm sorry for being
Right
late.
time, don't worry. All right. Roll call.
Commissioner Hill,
Here.
Commissioner Taylor,
Here.
Commissioner Nelson,
Here.
Vice Chairman Cole,
Here.
Chairman Fullwood.
Present.
Thank you.
At this time, I'm going to turn the meeting over to our attorney for board elections.
You put me on the spot. I didn't know I was running this part of the
I
show.
thought you should know that. You were here last year.
Can we confirm for the record that the two new commissioners were sworn in?
Yeah, they've been sworn in.
Okay, I just wanted that on our meeting record.
And I'd like to welcome both of you here for your first meeting, by the way. Thank you for bringing the crowd. We appreciate you guys being here.
So which office do you want to start
We'll be
with?
the board chairman and the chairman will do the rest.
The committee assignments or all the other?
I'll do the board chairman will do the committee assignments.
All right, so currently Chairman Fullwood obviously has been serving as chairman and has been for some time. I don't know how many years since I've been here, so a few. So we need to have a nomination, a second, and you need discussion on the next term for board chairman.
I nominate Danny Poole as the chair.
Are we gonna handle nominations one at a time or?
So you have one nomination.
And
So we'll consider that a second. If there's, if you want to have any discussion or put forth any other nominees.
I'd just like to say that he's done a great job. He's got a lot of things that he's working on still, and it ain't broke, don't fix it.
So we have two new members. Just want to give them an opportunity to speak about the roles. Chairman and vice chairman, secretary, treasurer. So I know my first meeting, I was a bit caught off guard by the process. And it's, your first meeting. Okay, now let's elect folks, it's an important job of chairman. It's a lot of work. Chairman Fullwood has done a really extraordinary job. Frankly, like more, I would say, than most chairs do. Vice Chairman Cole has served for 2 years as vice chairman. And last year, I believe we nominated him. There was a nomination for him to step up for chairman. Personally, I would like to see whoever steps into a vice chairman role move into the role of chairperson. Because the vice chairperson supports the chair, and it's a great learning opportunity for that commissioner to learn the process and to practice the role. And it helps to have transitioning with board members in different roles so that one board member doesn't unnecessarily hold too much sway. That's just my personal opinion. That's what I've observed in other boards. And some boards even have bylaws that say that different roles need to cycle through. That there needs to be a rotating board. So just some thoughts.
any other thoughts?
Question, Mr. Chairman, how many years have you served as chairman?
2.
Okay, so the last 2 years. Okay,
And
We
then
just, I'm sorry, go ahead.
the vice chairman Cole has been in that position for 2 years.
We just needed continuity with what we had going on at the time. We still need a little bit of it right now. And at this point, I'm really not ready to step up because I'm the chair of the TPO this year and have some other things that would, not not take away from it, but I would rather be able to focus on what's going on. Yeah, what's happening.
Well, and I'm not against, Mr. Fullwood continuing the role as chair. I just, the question was really, I was just thinking of, as we move forward, kind of giving others that opportunity to step up, like what Commissioner Hill had said with, Commissioner Cole stepping up, as vice chair, maybe stepping up into that role, or someone else stepping up into that role. But for right now, I will agree, I see Chairman Fullwood everywhere, all over the community, and praising the court. I know he's done a tremendous job, and I just so I support that nomination. I just think moving forward maybe in future years, I'd like to see, almost kind of like not necessarily rotating, but we would vote on it, but let's just look at some of the others and give others that opportunity as well.
Any other comment?
So are we receiving other nominations at the same time, or are we doing them one at a time?
One at a time.
For which
Position.
For the vice
So
chair.
so we're just talking about one position, but we're receiving all nominations.
I'm sorry.
for
One
that
position.
Okay. So are there any other nominations that people want to make? Anyone else? I mean, I would like to nominate Vice Chairman Cole to step up for that position in the spirit of what I said before last year, which is that the vice chairperson really should move into the chairperson role. It almost discourages others from stepping forward for that position in the future if those positions stay static for that long. So that's what I would propose. And I think Vice Chairman Cole, you're present at all of the local meetings. You make your way across the county. You go to Jacksonville to attend various meetings. Your attendance is excellent. And I think you're fully capable of doing that, and I'm supporting you in that role. And that takes nothing away from Chairman Forward.
If memory serves, and our bylaws aren't exactly clear, but if memory serves, the way we did it the last time is someone that's nominated either indicates their willingness to accept the nomination or accepts the nomination, and that the board confirms by the.
Well, I
So
will
you
accept
have-
the nomination if so voted.
Mr. Cole, you've also been nominated. What's your inclination?
I have been nominated, I believe we've been one at a time.
What do you
Oh,
think?
he was nominated for
Chair.
chair. Like I said, I would have to decline because I just feel like the Commissioner Fullwood is, we need that continuity that we had last year. And that my position as chair of the TPO and other organizations is just, it will be a little bit too much.
Okay.
So actually will be different.
Yeah, given the discussion, if we could have a formal motion to appoint Chairman Fullwood as the continuing chair,
I'll make the motion.
and a second.
A second.
And so we have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
The record reflect that was a unanimous vote to reappoint Chairman Fullwood as chairman of the Ocean Highway Authority. I won't bang her down.
I do accept, and I'll bang it down. And from there, the board chairman usually takes over for the other offices. I want to say first, thank you so much for allowing me to do this again. I do have a lot of unfinished business that I'm working on, and I just feel that it's necessary to have that might say continuity. And David knows we're working on a lot of things right now. I just think any change in chairman would hurt some of that. Mike, I appreciate you saying what you did, and we'll move on from here, but I will tell you, this is my last time. Whatever happens next year is just gonna happen because I'm not taking it after this. So everybody knows that. I'm gonna open the floor up for vice chair. Nomination for vice chair.
I would like to volunteer. I don't know if I can nominate myself, but I would like to volunteer for that role with the intent to move into the chairperson role at the end of that term. So I've served on several boards and I would support you, Chairman Forward. And I would serve as your proxy if you were able to attend local meetings or weren't able to serve in that capacity. And it would be, I know, a lot of work, but I would like to do that. 2 years on the board, I've learned a lot from you and from Vice Chairman Cole. And I just only request your consideration for that one.
You have a nomination on the floor.
I'll make a motion for that.
Nomination. So we now have a motion.
And a second.
I haven't heard a second. We have a motion to appoint Commissioner Hill as vice chair. Any second?
I'll second.
Can discuss further or you're ready to.
Any other nominations? I would like to nominate Vice Chair Cole to continue as vice chairman. He served in that position 2 years. And I think after this year, he has the right to move up to chairman. And with that, I'd like a second for that.
We have a motion on the floor and a second, so you need to take a vote on the motion, which is to appoint Commissioner Hill. It's a pending motion.
Okay. Go back.
So if you want to call.
Any discussion? Anything to say, Mike?
Just that I would be ready for the chair position next year. I was vice chair this year, then that's time. It doesn't mean that I have to be in a vice chair role to be like chair next year. But again, now we want to proceed with it. It's fine with me.
Any other discussion? All in favor of Commissioner Hill as vice chairman, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Carried. Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you.
All right, Secretary Treasurer. Now, do I hear any nominations for Secretary Treasurer?
I would like to nominate Commissioner Taylor for this role. And only because he's a new commissioner who does not have knowledge of the ins and outs of the port. And I think this would be a great opportunity for him to see how the cash flows function, how the board does its business. I think Commissioner Nelson would make an excellent treasurer as well, but I think he actually comes to this board with a lot more practical knowledge of what the port does. And is going to, hit the ground running in that regard. So that would be my nomination, is for Commissioner Taylor to serve as treasurer. But we can separate secretary and treasurer, can't we?
Good.
Okay. So I would like to modify my nomination to be as secretary
Or
for Commissioner Taylor.
to be secretary,
Yes,
instead of treasurer.
secretary.
So we need to be secretary, treasurer.
I'm not taking notes or anything. I'm not secretary. No, I'm kidding.
No, you wouldn't be taking any note of what secretary does.
You just have to this coffee and go college.
That's
I might want to
Sign
type
checks.
Yes,
Okay,
the
well,
secretary.
Secretary Treasurer, and then,
Treasurer actually is the one.
in my absence, the secretary will have to record the,
I don't, at this point, I don't think we should separate them. I think it should be secretary treasurer.
okay. Go back to the original.
All right,
Nomination
did
for
I get a
Commissioner
second
Taylor.
for that?
Yes.
All right. Motion been made and seconded to appoint Commissioner Taylor as secretary treasurer. Any discussion, further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carried. Okay, yeah, down to business. That's over with. It says on the agenda, the board appointments, and we'll get to that later, the committee appointments, and I'll get to that later. Any comments from the audience? Present?
None.
None. Good.
I'll move where our
City Commissioner is tonight. All right, approval of minutes for November 16th, monthly meeting.
recommendation to approve the meeting minutes. Minutes on the 16th.
And I'll submit.
Motion made and seconded to approve the November 16th monthly meeting minutes. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Motion carried. All right, Mr. Attorney, you're up.
Thank you, Chairman. I did want to make a note. I think when I look at my attorney report, it's pretty. It's pretty minimal. I did want to say that since Dave has come on board, I think for the benefit of all, my duties and involvement have lessened. And Dave's really taking charge of the majority of things that I was being involved in. So I think that's a good sign. Maybe not good for Dave, but it's certainly good for me. And I think it's certainly good for all of us.
You've done a great job.
Yeah, a couple of updates here on litigation, and I'm going to be brief, obviously. In the property appraiser case, this past Monday, we filed a complaint directly against the property appraiser for the 2022 tax exempt denial. It was our intention to file a counterclaim in the existing case. However, the property appraiser's attorney, when you file a counterclaim, you have to ask for permission of the other party. Do they mind you filing a counterclaim? And you file a motion. And we reached out to the property appraiser's attorney to get their consent, and we were told that he would not be able to provide any meaningful response before our deadline, which meant we had to file a standalone complaint against the property appraiser. So it's the same issues, it's the same matter, it's just for 22. We will get those consolidated. It makes no sense to have two cases out there, but he's a hard man to pin down. So that is moving forward. In the city case, we filed a motion to consolidate that case with the property appraiser case. And I'm going to be very brief because these cases are pending. But essentially, the city is saying you at some point agreed to pay us for certain services we may provide, fire protection, police, whatever else. And the reason that, and this is the city's position, the reason that Oka may or may not have agreed to that is because they don't pay property taxes. And so there was theoretically some deficit that the parties agreed would be made up. And now we have the property appraiser saying we owe property taxes. So we have two people pointing at us wanting the same thing. And so they're intertwined. We made the case to the judge that they're intertwined and said, we're not going to pay both of these. That wouldn't make any sense. If we owe one, we don't owe the other, vice versa, that kind of thing. Again, being very superficial in my explanation. We filed our motion to consolidate. We were hoping to have a hearing in January, but with all of the attorneys involved, that hearing is not scheduled until early March. So we're going to proceed. We're still working on them, but the wheels of litigation progress are slow and expensive, as you all are aware. So that's really my update there, and I'm happy to answer any questions to the extent that I can. Or if you want more detailed explanation, especially to the newer members, if you want to meet and talk in person or on phone, just let me know and I can bring you up to speed on what's going on and where we're headed and where our strategy is and all of those things.
Yeah, because this is all litigation, we cannot discuss it in the meeting. When you have any questions, contact the county and put it into that stuff. And I think you're doing a great job with that. You and I have talked, and I think we're headed in the right direction. And I think we'll be successful. Any questions, Patrick?
Are we gonna cover the last two items or three items separately or?
On my
Okay, so the additional revenue agreement, operating agreement. Is that being like discussed as like a separate agreement or?
we had talked about it as an amendment to the agreement, but we think, given some of the other issues within the agreement, we probably need to have a more comprehensive amendment. So the first one we dealt with was the tariff, but we did sort of a standalone and first amendment to the operating agreement regarding the collection and administration of the new tariff. That would be kind of kind of put that one on, not the back burner, but there are a number of things that we need to address. That we need to work with the operator on. So that's sort of in progress, I'll say.
So I was asked, I was concerned when we did the initial amendment just for the components that were really beneficial to the operator in terms of enforcing the tariff, which I respect and support. But I was concerned that by doing that separate from some of the other concerns that are open concerns, such as additional revenues and then public records, that these things would get pushed to the back burner and they wouldn't be a priority for the operator because they aren't operator issues, there are issues. So, I would just ask that we keep being vigilant unless other members of the board disagree. To get that, at least in like a term sheet, to start sort of hammering out what their issues are
Absolutely.
around the holidays when they're feeling generous.
Yeah, we have, Commissioner Huff, we have had some initial conversation. Yeah. Oh, for Patrick. Yeah, we didn't think you were gonna be here tonight, so. We're glad you are, thought you were still on your trip. Wherever you were.
I returned from my review of Southern Caribbean ports. A lot of business opportunities there. I have some business cards for you,
There you go.
but
Take it off.
didn't even have time to shave, so.
That's the countdown, you know. Get taxes. All right, you want to give us your financial report, please?
Yeah. So in your packet is the treasurer's report and with the monthly financials is the first part. We started receiving the fees back again on a quarterly basis instead of a monthly basis from the port operator.
Right.
So that's the quarterly, as I said, the quarterly fee, which was, as I said, for the last couple of years have been coming monthly. Now came as one lump sum at the start of the quarter. So so all those funds are to get us through the rest of the quarter, not just available right now. There's no other items on there unless anybody has any specific questions. Everything else is kind of standard. I will say the salaries of the board, so the board attorney, those are, we're debating how to show this. Obviously, we started to pay. We've had some surplus funds, and so we're paying some of the bills that were accrued from last year. This is a cash basis report. As I said, we're kind of getting into accounting, but should we show them on here or not is the debate. But we are showing them right now. So as I said, this is not actual spending of but this is catching up on some of the bills. From the port attorney, remember, we've accrued some bills that we couldn't pay in the last 12 months, and we're starting to make some payments on those. So that's what that $61,000 is. Like I said, other than that, any questions, anything? Obviously, we paid the first half of the audit fee, the $14,000. So as I said, the other half will come due when the audit's delivered to us completed. So that's the other $14,000 down at the bottom.
The legal fees that are included in salaries, that is any portion of that due to operator disputes that we would potentially want reimbursement from the operator?
That's a question for, so obviously we're billing back FMIC, which is the insurance for what we can.
Right.
We did receive a lump sum last year from the operator for, I want to say 23,000. I don't remember exactly. I'd have to look back for legal fees that were incurred. So that's really a question for Patrick. As far as we have not set up any receivables for any payments due back from the operator or anything like that. Obviously, the bills come to us. They're broken down by activity category, whatever. So I'd have to look at Patrick to answer that.
That fee that you were just talking about, it was a settlement that we made with the previous operator for all the headaches. I almost say headaches.
Right, but mostly legal fees.
Yeah, legal fees. So we agreed to stop all that and pay us. Any questions for Pierce? Okay, go ahead.
So that's the treasurer's report. Then obviously we still have Customs House. Obviously, all the bills are being paid by the operator. So whether we get rid of this page or
Yeah,
is
I had a
open.
call about the termite. I think the bug out called and said they've been unable to get in touch with anybody. I gave them Butch's number. I don't know if anybody got in touch with Butch or not, or anybody else down there about it. we need to go do whatever service they do yearly.
And so in the final page is the account balances. And we continue to obviously submit as available reimbursements from the ARPA grant. And obviously the master plan grant. We have a $30,000 invoice that we'll pay in January for the master plan. And yeah. So that's it for the financials, unless anybody has any questions.
As we operating is that amount showing there.
What
so-
did you say about the master plan? How much?
We have a $34,000 invoice.
Do you recall how much we paid total for that?
I'd have to look it up. I want to say we're at about 210,000, but don't quote me on that. I thought at the end of the year, we were about 199.
Total was 278. So
Yeah, I mean, there's only a little bit
not
left,
much left.
but yeah, we're,
In
Yeah,
terms
there's
of
another
what
30
we
to-
were paid?
well, there's another 30, yeah, there's about $80,000 left to pay for the $278,000, $280,000 master plan that we contracted for when we began the process.
David, when you look at like the overall project completion for that, that would be what, like 80% complete?
I would say probably further than 80%. My goal is to have that plan. In a position to have this board consider it final approval.
Second meeting in January.
Second meeting, earliest second meeting in January, perhaps first meeting in February.
But like in terms of substance, you're comfortable that like the work that the work product that's been delivered and the work that's been expended, work effort aligns with what we're paying?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Fine.
I know you're closer to that process.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure we don't like get out of our skis.
Well, as you know, when we set out to do the master plan, we were very focused on making sure that we involve the community much more than we have in the past. And by doing so, it requires more iterations than the previous plan probably did. We got to the level where we adopted. This one, we've had a lot of back and forth with the stakeholders committee and community. We expect some more. It requires, a few more iterations than maybe we would do what normally. But I think that as a result, we're going to look at a much better plan.
So. Any other comments? So just one final item from me. So we've been informed by FDOT that will be audited on the grants. So there's an FDOT auditor function. So not unexpected. As I said, we were warned, or not warned, but
Well,
we were told
at the beginning there.
well, that we were rated as high risk because of the level of staff that we have, the number of grants that we have currently, and the number of grants that we handle just in general. We're not a big port like, Port Canaveral or something like that has a full staff and handles grants constantly. So we only handle them occasionally, and some of them have been large. So as I said, we expect, so all we received to date is the notification letter. I contacted the Auditor General's office and the auditors doing their preliminary work, and we expect to hear from them in January. So once I know a better timeline of what will happen and things like that, what will be covered, all that is to be determined. So, there's no specifics yet. So just to let you know.
It'll be pretty in depth.
Yeah, so, but again, we take our grants are done on a very low risk, right? So everything we do is a reimbursement basis, right? We ask for no money up front. All the bills have been paid. All the bills that we send are reviewed by the FDOT staff at FDOT before they're submitted for reimbursement. So obviously I can't answer if there'll be any issues or not, but as I said, there's not a lot of, we're taking a pretty safe path. We'll see what the auditors have to say.
I'm pretty comfortable with it. We've done everything we need to do. We complied with everything. And this is not something that's just on us, everybody goes through.
Right. So,
My discussions with the FDOT seem to indicate that it's likely that they will just dig in on one project.
Right.
Yeah.
And check, see how we can find that one project and invitation or
Yeah.
program.
and some of them may be projects that were handled by the port operator with a lot of details. from the port
Yeah.
operator As opposed to.
Yeah.
I said, obviously, the ARPA grant and the master plan grant we're doing a lot more on.
Right.
Some of the other ones may be more related to the port operator, so. But anyway, I'll keep you posted. That's all I know for now.
Where did the letter come from? Which agency? Is it FDOT's internal auditor or is it like OIG?
No, it's the FDOT in the state of Florida.
Yeah.
So the state of Florida Office of the Auditor General. So, but it's specifically FDOT grant audit.
Is that typical? Do you know what the rate of audit is for grants?
Well, I think I don't know what the rate is, but they do these audits on an annual basis, various entities. And they just randomly, I guess, select which ones with an audit of them.
Any other questions for Pierre? All right, David, you're up.
I submitted my written report, I had a chance to read it, but it's been a lot of activity over the last month, a lot of administrative in terms of trying to figure out where we will continue to meet and where all people will be housed. We still don't have any resolution to either of those issues yet. Continue to work on it. The chairman's been very engaged in it. So as we nail down some of the options, we'll present those to you to make the final decisions. We were granted a little bit more time at the tax collector's office to the end of February, and so we're hoping we have the office space resolved by then. If not, we've got some options in terms of how we fill in that gap for more permanent space. I was notified by the FDOT that funding has been approved to do a resiliency plan for us at the terminal. They're in the process now of interviewing some of their consultants that they have on contract for these types of services. I had a phone call with one of them yesterday to review questions about scope, and so we're trying to see whether or not it's something that they're qualified to do or not. But hopefully in the next few weeks, certainly by the end of the year, we should know what that scope is. It'll be a contractor selected by the DOT, hired by the DOT. And we'll be working on our behalf. So that would be good.
Does that cover the whole port property?
And part of what I explained in DOT and to this consultant was that we would be looking at not only resiliency as it affects our terminal, but how it's impacted by or coordinated with the city as well. So, they've got their own resiliency that's going on, and we don't want to look at our property in isolation from what's going on around us. Port master plan is proceeding. Well, we had our second, third stakeholder committee meeting. Got a lot of really good feedback, a lot of issues of concern that we talked about. The consultant has gone back and he's looking at the draft again in light of those concerns and making some modifications. We have been very focused, as I said earlier, on public outreach and making sure that we're being transparent with the plan. But we have to recognize also that there is a difference between transparency and confidentiality. And there are times, because we work in this competitive environment, with reports and so forth, that certain items, until they become a public document, need to be kept somewhat confidential. And so we're trying to balance those interests. You may have seen a recent article in the Current Observer that I'll share with you all, reporting on the draft plan as if it were a final plan. And I can assure you, as I did the editor when we met, that it is very much a draft. And so as we make these modifications, it's about how we communicate with the community about what this board will ultimately be asked to adopt. We are looking at a January 26th as our next community engagement effort on that. And I'm sure we will have few meetings in between with this commission and perhaps with the city to go through some of this stuff before we go to the whole community. So
I think the city said they thought it was the 19th.
No, that's been changed.
Okay,
They had a conflict that day.
okay.
They had some city meetings, that some of them had to attend, so we put it off to the 26th.
Chairman, if I could just make a
Yes, sir.
comment.
Go ahead.
So something Dave mentioned reminded me if, whether it's the master plan or something else, if a board member gets a request for a document from someone with the public, I very much ask that you route that through Rosanna.
Yes.
I don't want you to play technical and I don't want you to be difficult with your constituents and with the public. But it's very important that we know what's being produced, what's being responded to. We've had some complications in the past with understanding who's giving what to whom and when. And we also have an operator that maintains documents that we consider public records. So if you're at one of these meetings or you run into somebody in Publix and they say, hey, can I have a copy of whatever y'all were talking about last night? Please give them Rosanna's email and ask them to route the request through her so that we can track it. We can document that we've responded. We can object to anything that's inappropriate. Any of those kind of things will help us just maintain administrative control over that process and be more efficient and more accountable and frankly, more transparent. So I think some of that's what happened with the master plan. So just a gentle reminder. Thank you.
Yeah, to the two new commissioners, make sure that's the process that we use. Anything that's requested from you of our business goes through Rosanna and she forwards it to Patrick and Patrick looks at it and gets the okay to get it out.
So if you walk up to a friend who's on a committee and you say, I heard you're serving on that committee. This was circulated the last meeting. And they say, I'd like a copy. You can say, well, this is my personal copy. How would you like it given to you? Is it a public record? You know, this is a public record. I can provide it to you. How would you like it? Do you want it in email? Do you want me to hand you this copy? I can get another one. How do you want it delivered? So is this a public records request? How would you like it delivered? And so then you can go and email Rosanna and copy that person and say, please provide the copy to this person, public record. This is what they want, where they want it. You can't ask them why. You can't tell them if you have it, if you know you have it, you say, I have it. You can't say, you need to go ask them. So the key is that you're gonna get it if this is a public records request. And how do you want it? So it takes a reasonable amount of time for us to respond, which usually it's like.
It's pretty clear.
And if we don't want to do a deep dive into public records and maybe we'll do some training, but if you have a document that you've been making notes on, that's not a public record. Those are your personal notes. If you take those notes and give them to Roseanne and say, put these in the minutes, or you give them to the rest of the commission, then yes, it's a public record. But if you're in a meeting like the chairman does and you're making checks and you're making notes, those are your notes. So after a meeting, somebody comes up and says, I'd like to have that. There needs to be a proper channel to go through just to make sure we're efficient. So maybe we'll do some training. That sounds tedious and boring.
I don't know when they'll have the next training. The city might do one again soon with the new commissioners. And
So you did training, right? With the county?
yeah, you
You
should
do
know.
it annually or?
Yeah. Well, and it should be part of your normal training, but we'll take a look at it. I don't want to sidetrack other days, just I'll take it.
Go ahead, Dave.
The only other thing I just want to mention, I did have the pleasure of speaking to the current class of leadership Nassau yesterday, updated on where we are and what our activities are. And I thought it went really well. Thankfully, they scheduled me right before Congressman Bean spoke.
That's good.
Well, yeah, we'll call it a presentation.
Where'd they have the meeting?
Who's that big county commissioner?
Oh, they got in.
Dave, if you meet with, I don't know if you're gonna cover it, but on the permits, I'd like to be part of that if I'm available. Sure.
loop me in.
Yeah, so, over the years, OPA and or the operator have applied for various permits, to build out the terminal, as you see it, and finding and gathering all those records. Sometimes they were done on behalf of the operator and OPA never saw them and then for whatever reason. So I've been trying to develop a baseline of where we are with our permits. I think there may have been in the past some compliance issues, monitoring and things like that, that were required of our permits that we may or may not. Don't know yet, but we may or may not have complied with them. So we're trying to, with the new operator and us being new, to form that baseline and understand where we are and move forward. So
Some of those are environmental.
most of the environment, yeah. Environmentally, whether they're wetland permits, stormwater permits, sort of solid submerged land leases. Those types of things that we should have in place. Some we do and some we don't. Some we do, we haven't applied. And we're just trying to figure out where we really are today and make sure that we're good going forward. Open any other questions?
I've, give me just a question really regarding the master plan.
Yeah.
I know we mentioned the goal being February, to adopt it, right? The first meeting in February is what. Are we gonna have enough time between January 26th and that first meeting, to make any changes and then put it back out there for the public to see it? Because we want to make sure that, I know the community's involved and I understand that you want to be transparent with it, and I appreciate that. Just want to make sure that there's gonna be, we're not obligated to that February timeline,
No.
right?
No, I mean, we'd like to get it done sooner than later for several
Exactly.
reasons, but. And it's a good conversation to have, one of the things though. In my mind, one of the things that I think we may want to consider, but I know the city commission has expressed some interest in having another joint meeting with our commission. I think that if we have that meeting, that this would be probably the top topic for us to discuss with them. So part of the thought is, perhaps we can meet with the city commission early January. Followed by our next commission meeting will be the next week. We can present to you the second week in February, our first meeting. What we think is the final draft based on all the input that we've gotten from stakeholders and from the community and the work that we've already done, present you what we think is the final draft. Give you the next couple of weeks to review it, ask questions, provide input to it, we can post it on our website. And then be prepared either at the second meeting in January to vote on it. As a final. If we do that, it would be the night before the open house for the community. So at that point, we would be presenting them. This is the final document after we received your input throughout this year, as well as the city commission input, county input, et cetera. And present it to them as a final document. And then that time period, then we can still turn with it. So that's sort of the.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we weren't locked into a February timeframe.
No, there's no
March or-
deadline
Good.
per se. There are projects that we'd like to obviously begin to start trying to implement that are recommended in the plan. And we certainly don't want to begin that process until the plan is approved. So we're a little bit of treading water a little bit. We get there.
We've had 2 stakeholder meetings and the second meeting that we had this month. We got a lot of that worked out. There was a lot of things we took out of the master plans. And a lot of things we changed. And it's still a draft at this point. That's why last commission meeting, city commission, Commissioner Ross asked that we meet. They meet with us to discuss some of the things that he has questions about. And I called the attorney today and she's going to set up a couple of meeting dates and I'll get them out to you, make sure that you're available for those dates and we'll sit down with them. And go through some things and before the meeting that we have with the general public. And before we have our second meeting next month. So,
I think we should be prepared to demonstrate at that meeting with the city. What components of our master plan as drafted meet the requirements of chapter 311.14. Because they, or Commissioner Ross
that's what the questions are gonna have.
recited those components, and he claims that we did not meet those requirements. So we need to be able to point to the aspects of the plan which do meet those requirements. And then doesn't the city need to? Isn't there like a mutual adoption process that's like?
I understand, and Patrick, what attorneys might be able to clarify for me, but as I understand it, that my approach was that this commission would approve the plan. And then we would transmit it to the city for their consideration and incorporation to the maximum extent feasible into their comprehensive plan.
I can tell you now, that everything in their comp plan is not gonna agree with our master plan. There's just no way. But there are ways for them to challenge that. And the last master plan, they didn't do that. They just said, we're not gonna accept it. So that's,
Well,
they have the right to do that.
in their proposal, they committed to provide us an analysis of local laws and regulations.
And they're doing
to
that.
help us mitigate that,
Yeah.
so. To the extent they can, kind of get ahead of that, we can. We know what the issues are, it's conservation land,
Right,
wetlands.
right.
Um,
And I think we're gonna be pretty close. There may be just some very small issues that they want to make sure of, but I think we're gonna be very close this time. And we'll present it, if they accept it, and I think they will. But then if they have some issues that they can challenge it, we'll mitigate it. So,
I think it's gonna be a good plan, everything. Using a good roadmap for the next
yes,
planning period that would. Hopefully the park will-
Did you go to the December 6th workshop? The city's workshop where they discussed our master plan?
no, but I watched. Yeah, I didn't go, I was told probably not to go. So, might be better, probably a good thing I didn't. But yeah, I know what the issues are and what he talked about. So you saw it. So. Okay, Dave, what else?
That's all I have. I said, but, you know,
All right, any questions for Dave?
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to go back to the first item on this. Where we're in a dilemma to find a place to meet when, my memory serves me correctly, up until just recently, it's been an issue. It hasn't been an issue, but it is now.
If you don't mind, we're gonna talk about that in just a minute.
Okay.
Say everything, and I know what you're gonna say. And, it needs to be said, so, yeah, we just hang on just a minute.
I got you.
Absolutely. Do we have anything on the dredging RFP?
So we did go out, as you know, with the request for bids. We got one response, France Diversified, which is also the company that provided the unsolicited proposal to it before we went out to bid. They're also the company that does all the dredging, if I understand, for the city marina. And also controls the only oil pipe that's available now. So they were the only bidder. They sent us today a draft contract that I shared with Patrick. We're gonna have to meet on that. I've also shared it with the operator. So we hope to be prepared at the next commission meeting, first meeting in January, to recommend approval of that contract.
And
I think I guess we need the commission to agree for us to negotiate with this contractor. Or
Yeah, I don't, given that you had one responder, I don't know that we need a formal vote to accept that vendor, but I think, especially for me, probably for Dave, we need direction from the board to, this contract needs some work. It's like a 2-page contract. It is inconsistent in referring to OPA versus the operator. So it doesn't have a lot of the things it needs. So I think by consensus, if you can direct us to work on this contract and bring something to you next month. And that's what we'll do. Unless they,
I'm just gonna directly do that.
This project will be fully determined between
This is
the
a contract here.
and the operator.
I'm sorry if you said this, I didn't hear it. Do you know this company?
I personally have not experienced it.
Can we,
I
Find out
do a lot
about-
of dredging work, and the city has used them for a long period of time. You know, what we're talking about here is a very, frankly, a small amount, volume wise for a contract, amount. Most dredging contracts, most much larger volume, so. A lot of the cost is in mobilization, demo, which not a big project that's important, but this one is a big number because relatively small amount of volume. One of the things that, I will be doing, I've reached out already, haven't been able to set up a meeting yet, is to meet with the marina operator. Knowing that they use the same contractor to see if maybe there's a better way for us to coordinate with them and do our dredging out the same time and offer so we can save on some of those mobile costs.
can we piggyback on their agreement?
I haven't seen the agreement.
depends on what their agreement says, so if we can get a hold of that, I think this is not my world, but I think. The reason this is the only one you've heard from is because they control the spoil site here, right? So
Right.
anybody else is gonna
They
have
already
to
have the spoil site,
carry it way off.
and it would cost a lot more. Yeah.
So, if you can get the city's contract, when you talk to them, take a look at it, that might slow us down a bit, but. I'm happy to
I
look at
thought
it.
it was like Florida Inland Navigation District that manages well site.
They have their own.
They're a private site.
It's a challenge with their sites is you can use their site, but you put it in, you gotta take it out. So they don't want you to be their capacity.
So that's not a
not
viable
viable.
solution.
Any other questions? All right, let's move on. Rosanna in here has pending business. I've marked it as unfinished business. We'll talk about them. Cruise ship update.
Mr. Chairman, before you do it, you want to do the time?
Yeah, we can. Is anybody here to give the tonnage report?
They're not, but I told Butch, you know, that the committee might provide him one of the questions. He did indicate the decline last month.
Yeah, we-
It was just a scheduling issue. Those ships are going to go.
We all got a copy of it. Any questions about the tonnage reports? Yeah, it's declined a little bit, but you know, that thing runs in cycles. Yeah.
Come in, it's coming in this month.
May double next month. You never know, never know. Any other questions about that?
Is Mr. Gilbert planning to attend our meetings on a regular basis?
That's that now.
And number two, Kyle. Had an issue with planning.
Yeah, it would be great if someone from the operator could be here if he can't. You know, this
But
would-
before you.
Believe me, we try to get that done. Just get that one. Okay, let's go to unfinished business. Cruise ship update. Dave, you wanna take us through that?
Sure, so, this has been obviously one of the items in our master plan, draft plan.
Got a lot of feedback.
Raised a lot of, and not surprising, right? So where we stand, I think this, we haven't really had a meeting since the articles came out regarding the Oceana Vista vessel that was 400 passenger ship that showed up in a brochure by Oceana that was being marketed for 2024 and 2025. We did some digging into that to find out what commitments have been made either by OVO or by the operator related to cruise ships. I was able to speak with the agent for Oceana, who I've known for many years. And she was able to share information with me that indicated that there was a commitment made by Worldwide for the Seven Seas Navigator, which was about a 480 to 500 passenger vessel to come in May of this year. And that there was a request made for 2024 and 2025 for the Oceana Vista. which is a 1,200 passenger ship owned by NCL. The operator never committed to that ship. It asked for the agent to provide certain particulars about the vessel, number of passengers, length of the vessel, et cetera. That information was provided to the operator. The operator basically said, we're going to review it, we'll get back. But there was no commitment made for that vessel. That is the one that showed up in the brochure. People said, well, how is the cruise line advertised when they don't have a commitment? Unfortunately, it happens quite frequently. For a number of reasons. One, I think some of the lines, and I don't know in this case, but sometimes the lines presume that they will be able to come in as long as there's a berth available, because why wouldn't you allow them in? And certainly, given our expertise, we can handle a 1,200 passenger ship in Bernardino. So there may have been some presumption on their part. There may have also been some testing of the market, right, to see whether or not Fernandina was something that their passengers or clientele, locations they might want to come to or not. I can tell you 3 years from now is a lifetime in the cruise industry. We look back where we were 3 years ago, people were saying that the cruise industry was dead because of COVID. And now they're doing quite well. So a lot can happen in that time frame. I did have a conversation, subsequent conversation a week ago with the the ship's agent for both vessels, and told them that it was important that before the ship comes in May, that we were committed to that ship, but before it came in, certainly sooner than later, and by that I meant in the next several weeks, that I intend to get with their shore excursion people and figure out an operational plan for those 400 or 500 passengers that may be on that vessel. What are the options for them to go? How many are going to go downtown and take a trolley to Front Street and Center Street, and how many might go off out of downtown area, either to the beach or outside the immediate vicinity, and put together a operational plan for that vessel. I told her also that we were not committed, nor was I going to commit in any way to that 1,200 passenger vessel until we were able to demonstrate that we could very easily handle the 500 passenger vessel first, which is due in May. We also have the Ocean Explorer, which is about a 200 passenger vessel. She was supposed to call originally in November, was canceled because of the storm. And then she was planning to come back again in April. She's still planning on going in April. Much smaller vessel. And that commitment had already been made by the operator. So we're working closely with the cruise lines, letting them know that these operational plans are something that we're going to require to have in place. We're working with the chamber and others to develop itineraries and excursions that these passengers can take advantage of while they're here, so that we don't have all those passengers focused in any one part of town, that we distribute the economic benefit of those passengers around the county, around the region. And so still got a lot of work to do, but I'm confident that we'll be able to demonstrate that these small cruises that really cater to a very high-end retiree type of clientele will be very beneficial to this community and to the board.
Yes, and I've talked to several business owners downtown, and they are very much in favor of the cruise ship coming in, because it's good business for them. These people have money and they like to spend it. That's why we just don't want to throw 1,000 passengers down Center Street.
Well, certainly, right, and we certainly don't want to do it without a plan, but so we know how we're doing it.
But 1,000, we're gonna have to talk about that before we commit to that big of a ship. I just don't think it will. That's my opinion. So, and there's been a lot of chatter about the cruise ships and a lot of misinformation. People are talking about it. They don't understand. They see things written, or they hear things from other community members, and they just don't understand. I hope that community meeting we have with our master plan will clear up all of this. We're going to be able to present what our plan is. And hopefully we cleared all that up. But, Dave and I had an hour and a half conversation with the Observer. Fellow, just had it yesterday, Tuesday morning. Yeah. And he was under a lot of misinformation, and I think he came away from that meeting with a much better understanding. I think we'll see much better articles from him going forward, and it was a good meeting. I'm glad we did it, and it was time well spent. But we've got a lot of work to do in the community to get this information out, make sure they understand where we are.
Yeah, I think the like distrust comes from when we circulate among the community the concept of small ships and we say 500 passengers or less. But then we actually have on our schedule, I mean, the one ship we just talked about is 680 passengers and 480 crew, that's 7 seats. It's not 500 people, that's over 1,000 people,
Crew members don't generally,
but you can disembark,
they can,
right? And
they
so,
generally always.
and if you have to make provision for traffic flows, if you look at other communities like Key West, Charleston, and Savannah, and you look at what the local community says about cruise ships for the local community, and whether it actually brings the benefit that it initially promises, what they say is that the diesel exhaust stinks, the traffic is terrible, and there's nothing they can do to stop it. And in Florida, we just passed legislation in 2021 that says that nothing, that this board, the county and the city cannot do anything to impede cruise commerce. And so Key West wants to redirect traffic flows from their port. So just a simple, don't go this street, go that street with your buses. It's being challenged under this new law. So the law might change, but the way it is now, I don't know that we can promise. I mean, I would love to be able to promise that we would oversee it, but I don't know that we can. And I mean, Patrick, you said last meeting, we were gonna look into it. I don't know what is out there in terms of precedent.
Mostly it's safety. That's, I mean, it's brand new, so there's not a lot of precedent, there's not a lot of established rules and regs. But I know what Key West is hanging their hat on, they've kind of, not to make a sailing pun, they've kind of tacked away from congestion and being overrun and things like that to, can they safely handle that type of, that size of ship or the frequency? So it's come down to a public safety issue more than we don't really want to do this kind of thing.
But those ships are thousands of passengers. They're big ships.
Right.
And sometimes they have two or three in there at a time. That's where they're coming from. We're not gonna do that. And you're right, the city can't prevent us from, or anybody from going somewhere. I mean, they can't close streets off and say, you can't come down here. That's the new law. But I think we're gonna be,
We'll find some cooperative.
yeah,
And just for the record, I'm looking at 17th Avenue, page house, 482.
But I think going back to misinformation, again, it's because we do not have a concrete plan before I know it wasn't, anybody at this board, or even the current operator who made the commitment for, but, we can't do anything unless we have an actual concrete plan, because that's when we run into the issues we're running into right now. How's it going to affect existing port operations? What's going to be the economic impact? And is it beneficial? I understand. I mean, businesses are going to love that naturally. It's going to be an economic impact to them. It's going to be great for the community in that way. But will it adversely affect the nearby community, the current port operations? And I think until we actually know all that and see all of that and have an actual document, a plan in place, we're not going to be able to move forward with any cruise lines.
well, as we've been developing this master plan, we've had 2 stakeholder meetings. The first stakeholder meeting, there was a lot of stuff in there that we were not going to keep in there. And The second one, we took a lot of it out. I'm not gonna go into all that detail right now, but the first draft got distributed throughout the city. Somebody asked, it was public record, so somebody asked for it and we had to give it out. But there was a lot of things in there that people jumped on to say, well, what do you want to do? You know, and a lot of it was about the cruise ships and some other things, roads, egress and ingress to the port. All that's gone now. The second stakeholder meeting, we took a lot of that out, so. I think the final version and what we distributed at the meeting will calm a lot of those fears down and we'll be able to do the right thing.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I talked with Virginia Duncan with the changes of another issue today, we talked about this cruise ship. She's on board with this if, once we get all of our ducks in a row, our parameters set up. She highly wants to, support it. Waiting on us to figure out what we're going to do. Once we do, then again, we're more than glad to support it and start advertising in her channels.
Yes,
And David, you said that the seven seas, the one ship's coming in May with 400, 480 to 500. But you mentioned another one, 200 passenger in April. Is that locked in? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, just for clarification, you're talking about a day call. Right?
yes. Come in the morning, leave in the afternoon. Nothing overnight.
Usually those vessels arrive at 0700 and sell at 1700.
That's 5 o'clock. Guess you didn't know. Yeah. And, it's done very efficiently when the ships come in and get the passengers off and get them on trolleys and get them wherever they're going, so. Port's always done a great job with that.
It was a cruise ship on the way downtown. Small.
Downtown, they do it too.
How many,
Small.
how many buses, like Greyhound sized buses, would it take to get 500 passengers off the boat?
Oh, Lord.
40 to 65 passengers, depend on the bus. But usually it's 40 passengers for the normal bus, but it goes up to 65.
Vast majority of these guys, historically anyway, have shot down Front Street to Center and spent the day downtown. Done the river cruise, Cumberland Island, what have you. We're just trying to say, yeah, we're going to continue to offer that, but there's probably other areas of the county, especially, what was, about economic opportunities, for everybody. There are other venues around the county that we would like to promote as well. And so when the Explorer, for example, was coming in was that one of the storms that canceled it. We had actually gotten a tour operator to offer a small tour that they put together for American Beach. The whole African American history of American Beach. So it's those types of experiences that these types of passengers are really looking for, right? These are not the college kids that are going away for spring break and just going to have a party somewhere. These are, well-to-do retirees who are looking more for experiences than anything else.
And if we did, by some chance, have a 500 passenger come in, we would not put them all on buses and ship them out somewhere. You've got an itinerary that they offer. A group goes here, a group goes there, another group goes there, and it's smaller. It's not the big buses. It's the.
Well, let's be clear too, the way the industry operates, the cruise lines have their own shore excursion departments. And they're the ones that make the arrangements and contract with the different venues because they don't want to send their passengers somewhere where there's going to be some type of risk to that passenger, right? They want to make sure it's a safe and positive experience. So they make those arrangements. And they're the ones that contract with transportation providers to get their people to those venues. So if you're taking 10 or 12 people in American Beach for a tour, you're not gonna charter a 50 bucks to do that, right? So it's really something that we just got to, the more venues we can provide, the likelihood is that you're gonna have smaller groups going to those venues. And the biggest group, would be those that are going down Front Street to the center. And, long range, we'd like to continue to work with the city on improving that whole Front Street corridor, so that, you wouldn't even necessarily have to take a trolley, but you might actually like to stroll down Front Street to the center, which would minimize some of that impact as well.
Another thing I want to cover is when we had the meeting, at the first meeting at the city, at City Hall, when we invited the public in to look at the maps and look at everything, we had a suggestion box, and we allowed them to make suggestions for the master plan, what they saw and what we presented to them at the time. And we took all those suggestions. Two of those suggestions were rerouting traffic coming into the port. Two roads or two places that were suggested, Escambia Street and going around through West Rock, which, there's no way that's gonna happen, but we put those in the first draft. And that got out to the public. And since then, the second meeting, we talked about that thoroughly, and we've completely taken that out now. Those two accesses out, ingress or egress, whatever. And strictly, it's gonna be Dave Street and nowhere else at this time. Maybe 20, 30 years down the road, if the port can do something, or the city agree to it, and maybe they'll do something, but that's not in the plan any longer.
Did you do a handwriting analysis on those suggestions?
No, I didn't, but I can almost guarantee you, I know who wrote them. Pretty close. Okay, any other questions about master plan or anything? All right, let's move on to the interlocal agreement with the county for the meeting space. We received an interlocal agreement from the county. We've been trying to get this for over a month, and they finally got something to us. And you want to put that up? I'm not real happy with it. They want to charge us $100 per meeting. Plus, we have to have a sheriff deputy there at the meeting, which is another, for 2 or 3 hours, another $150 to $200. So you're talking $300 to $400 for a single meeting. That I'm not happy with. And on top of that, we cannot use Wi-Fi. We cannot use the big screen like we have here. So we're just kind of dead in the water there if we do that now. I've asked Patrick to go back to the attorney and see if we can renegotiate something. I don't know if you've had a chance to do that.
We just talked about that today. You and I.
Okay, so today, did you get it done yet?
No, I didn't.
Okay, so we're gonna do that, but I don't think there's any hope for that now. I know. Ray, you got something you want to say about that now?
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out why one public governing body has the right to charge another public governing body anything. That's a public building. That was built by the taxpayers. So I'm trying and struggling with, why do we have one entity says, if you're going to use this, you got to pay us? It hasn't been done in the past. And on the waterfront, we call that passport practice. You don't change up midstream. Once you start something, that's what you live with. So as a commissioner and a taxpayer, I'm dumbfounded by this, and I'm not happy about it.
We've all been dumbfounded about it. I just don't understand it. One of the things I've heard is that security has something to do with it.
What type of security?
Cyber security. I don't know what they're talking about. I don't know how we would.
Well, I handed to them, that was probably the best choice to pick out of anything. But what got me is the night you invited me to come speak, there was no law enforcement security there. And I'll tell you, anytime you have a public gathering, whoever has that gathering is legally bound to make sure they have security for those people that attend. So looking at it from the law enforcement side, it just seems like somebody is swatting flies here and hoping that they hit one. I don't think that this commission should bow down to that. I think that that is a public building, and we as a governing body have just as much right to be there as they do.
So I'm probably gonna be the lone person to disagree. We don't fall under the BOCC umbrella. I mean, they have their own committees, they have their own boards that go in there. They're not beholden to us, they're not obligated to us, just because it happened before. I mean, things change. You have new county manager in place now, and this is what he's implementing. I think going back and trying to negotiate the $100, maybe that's the hill to die on, I don't know, but if that's what, we want to do, we can do that. The cost for the bailiff services, if that's what they require, that's, again, understand it. The IT side of it, it's the cybersecurity, but they have 4 folks in their IT department that run all of those meetings. And so they're already spread thin as it is. So they're not going to be able to, come into a meeting, but again, we don't fall under that BOCC umbrella. So why should they, lend out one of their folks?
We're not asking them to do that.
Well, then that's the only way that we can really operate the equipment then, right? I mean, to have the projector
We've
on, to have,
operated the screen since we've been there.
so
Now,
we access that through the
we
computer
go
system,
through,
right?
You don't use the computer system.
No, we don't use their computer system at all.
It's only the.
We
it's only
use
like
Wi-Fi.
Microphone, it's the microphones.
She uses the Wi-Fi to broadcast it on.
Our YouTube channel.
So there's cybersecurity. I don't know how we would interfere with any cybersecurity in that case.
Now, being able to connect to their system would be awesome, and that would be worth paying for, I think. But if we're just continuing to do YouTube,
How are we connecting it into the projector for the screen?
It's a thumb drive that I put on the.
The thumb drive that goes into their computer,
Mhm.
right? That's what, so I think that's the concern with the cybersecurity, and I don't, again, I don't think that's just the BOCC concern. I think it's
Thumb
other.
drive that puts our agenda up on the screen. That
So
would
take
be
it-
cybersecurity.
You're taking a thumb drive and you're putting it into a computer system, into their computer system, all right? So would that, I think that's the concern is what I'm saying. I think that's the,
A thumb drive from anybody, if it's programmed right or infected right.
I understand
we can
that.
plug that in
I
and
understand.
plug the whole system. But if their Wi-Fi and security is so weak that they have to worry about that, then they need to be doing something different.
I would like for you to continue to talk to them, and you've heard the concerns here, what our, thoughts are. See if you can communicate that to them. See what they come up with, and now,
In the meantime,
in the meantime, we're either gonna stay here for a while, or David and I are working on some other options. I'm not gonna go into detail about what they are because we haven't nailed anything down yet. One is a pretty good option that we could probably use that would cost us about $120 a week. And that's Wi-Fi, that's using a screen, has a beautiful meeting place. The tables for even the audience. And we're looking into that, and I'll bring that back to you next meeting. I need to talk to one other person and see if I can get that $120 taken care of, or at least reduced a little bit. There is another space that may not cost us anything. We're working on that. We're gonna move. Rosanna has to move her office because we can't stay in John Drew's place till the end of February. We have to be out by then. We have found a place for her. But the office that's there now is moving to another office. And then another office is moving to a new office And they haven't completed that yet, so until they get that completed,
Musical chairs.
the office that in our space can't move, and then we can't move into that space. So we're waiting on the city to take care of that problem for us, and God only knows how long. You know that. But the office comes with a very large meeting space. And we could use that for nothing, and it has Wi-Fi and it has a screen, it's just a big auditorium. And that's all I'm gonna say. So we are working on some options, the Board of Realtors, I've talked to them, they have 2 meeting spaces that they would allow us to use, but I haven't talked to them about a price yet. And see if they would charge us anything, so. I'm working on those, I'll have all that taken care of by the next meeting and bring it back to you. We'll go from there, that's all I can do right now.
And we do pay something to have meetings here.
We pay $20 a meeting for here.
It's something.
Yeah. It is
Mr.
something.
Chairman, may I ask,
Yes,
because it's not settling. How much did OPA pay prior to this current?
nothing.
Thank you. I think that makes my case in point.
I get where you're coming from, and I understand.
Am I to understand this is coming from the county manager?
Yes. You know it well. Talk to it.
Doesn't make it right,
I know.
and maybe somebody needs to talk to it.
Okay.
Does the supervisor of elections pay for their use of the facility?
I-
I don't have, I would say that, because
I don't think they do.
under the.
I don't think the supervisor elections pays or the property appraiser
We'll talk appropriately with the big one. For,
for their office space.
their office space, I don't know.
And they use Wi-Fi, they're on county Wi-Fi, aren't they?
They've got their own systems in some areas, but I mean, there are some agreements in place, yeah.
See, that just what it says.
It makes no sense. And, you know, as a governing body, we should be asking some tough questions to these people. And where do they come off after all these years have gone by and no charge? And then all of a sudden, somebody gets Mr. Chairman, it's just not right. And I'll say,
Believe me, I've talked to a couple of county commissioners about it, and they say, well, you know, that's nothing we can do about it.
I should say,
Yeah, I know.
But we are an independent district, so we're not a creation of the county, we're not part of the non-charter government.
But you're saying it's a public building.
it's a public building. It was paid for by taxpayers. We are also a governing body for the taxpayers.
Yeah.
That's, that don't make any sense.
But none of our budget is allocated toward those assets. We have to govern OPA owns assets. We don't have any commitments to compensate for our use of that building. So it's not, we don't own it. We aren't a county, we are not an extension of the county. We aren't subject to the county. And so I don't think we can say that we have a right. Yes, they let us as a courtesy meet in that space, but we are also elected just like they are coextensively across the county. But the county has no authority to dissolve us or to affect the way we use our funds. They have no authority over us, really. And we're an independent district. We're a creature of Florida statutes. Legislature could go to the next session and decide we don't exist.
I understand all your concerns, and I'm totally on board with all of you. But
I'm just saying, if you flex your muscles, just do it knowing that our authority to do so should be based on what our charter says we can do and what their charter powers say they can do. That's their building.
let me ask you, if we got this other space that I'm looking at for $120 a meeting, would that hurt anybody's feelings?
But some of these people may have to drive farther depending on where it's secret locations.
Well, I can tell you it's on the island.
No, so these other
So,
gentlemen, they care,
well, everybody gets a vote.
and their constituents
Well,
who drive them all over.
okay.
You don't get a vote.
Right. I know you'd like to stay out here.
It's like, it's like,
I'm just gonna offer my.
You and David, smoke, stay here.
You guys don't need, might meet in Duval County. Free.
I think it needs to be, we can go a little bit more. We don't fall under their umbrella, but neither does the tax collector, neither does the supervisor of election. And they're there and in the same building.
All right, so I'll again direct our attorney to look into it.
I'll reach out to you.
All right, good. Let's move on. Okay, anything else under unfinished business, Rosanna? Is that it?
I think that's it.
Office space update, local agreement. New business stakeholder committee report. We've already talked about that. City commission concerns, we've talked about that too. We're gonna get a meeting together with the city commissioners, the new city commissioners. There's only one old one left on. No, there's two old ones left, but they're not that old. But as you know, if you're attuned to elections, there are two new city commissioners as of yesterday. And we'll see where that goes. All right. We're gonna get in now to committees, not knowing who would be making these appointments. I was prepared just in case, and I don't know if Mike was prepared or not.
Okay,
But what I'm gonna do, since I've been elected chairman, I'm gonna assign committees again. And we'll start with port security, and I would like Commissioner Nelson to handle port security. If you don't mind,
I'll take that.
all right? And we're gonna do a new one here, Custom House and port facilities. Now, you know what I'm talking about, port facilities. So what would you consider that?
I would incorporate that in being both, the buildings, the fencing, and the actual restricted marine terminal,
Frames and
frames and everything. Absolutely.
we'll report on that if there's anything that can be reported on. Okay, I'm gonna continue with the FDOT and Army Corps of Engineers. Economic Development, Commissioner Cole has said he would continue with that unless somebody else just wanted to do it. That means you have to attend their meetings once a month. When are their meetings?
Once a month.
But it's what they.
It varies.
They're various, then, okay. So unless somebody's got an objection, we'll let him continue with that. Is that okay? Emergency management, Commissioner Cole is already qualified to work with emergency management. He's done that during the hurricane, so I'm gonna let him, if you don't mind, continue doing that. TPO, Commissioner Cole is now the chairman of the TPO, so I will let him continue on that committee.
How
Yes.
long is your role as chairman? Is it?
1 year.
It's 1 year.
1 year is always.
When does that term start? It's been a couple months, right?
No, it just started,
Oh, it just started.
Yeah.
just elected that week.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
I would say Commissioner Cole is the first chairman of the TPO coming out of independent authority.
oh, yeah. from an independent-
Anywhere, counties that are represented.
It's always been a county.
Danny Legal was at one time.
Danny was the chair 4 years ago, but
Yeah.
again, he was a county commissioner.
And who is the outgoing chair?
The outgoing chair was Wayne Bola from Park Park.
Do you attend those meetings too?
And I would say,
And I'm gonna
Mr.
report
Chairman,
on it a little bit more.
I would So, Mr. Chairman, you do have a committee or a member for the technical coordination agency of the TPO.
Yes,
And that was really an important position before you had executive director, but the majority of people that are on that committee are the staff members of the various agencies. And I do attend those, so if you want to appoint another commissioner, that's great. But I will also be serving there as an alternate. So if
Okay,
whoever you
well, I
appoint
would-
can't make it, I'll still do it.
I would definitely like to have Commissioner Taylor take the TCC, and if you can't go to those, you got a backup right there. You want to report on the TPO? You got something you want to report
I
on?
just wanted to say that, you know, that I was elected last week. Usually we have, TPO is always the second Thursday, and it just happened that we had that before our meetings. But anyhow, we had a meeting last week. I was elected it. And just I wanted to explain what goes on there is mostly it's them talking about projects that we have throughout the county, throughout the region, excuse me. There's 5 counties that are on that. They bring up a lot of stuff. Commissioner Hanna was always strong that he wanted to see our fair share. Well, we're not as big as Duval County and St. Johns County and as far as numbers, so we get our fair share. And but being on there, hopefully this year it will give us a little more exposure and we'll be able to pick up a little bit more on our end, or at least make some requests to get some things done. The things that are going on in our county right now is the resurfacing of State Road 200 and different roads within the county. So that's what they bring up. That's what they discuss. And of course they have other reports on the smart aspect, which is parking and improving, and even to the point where they're looking at 30 years out with autonomous cars and highways and conveyor sidewalks and parking garages and stuff like that. So they're 30 years out. I won't see all this stuff, but I'll see some of it.
Does the TPO publish an agenda?
Yes, it is.
I know their meeting is usually the night after our meeting,
Mhm.
and I've tuned into a few of the meetings. I know a few of the board members personally. And the one thing I will say, I appreciate Commissioner Hanna, former Commissioner Hanna, for speaking up about Nassau's fair share, because one of the meetings where I attended, a portion of funds, I think it was $30 million, had been allocated to Nassau County. And the discussion was that the funds should be reallocated to St. Johns County, because we already had this diverging diamond project in the works, and look how good that was. But that project had already been evaluated and considered when they originally divvied up the money.
Right.
And so you really do need to, look back to the history of some of these discussions when they proposed to move money around. And just hold them accountable for when they are taking money from Nassau County and that fairness, because we are getting the rooftops, we are getting the traffic. And if we don't advocate now, it will be too late by the time. These are long-term projects, they're 20-year projects. And I would ask the members that are continuing our TPO and new members that we get a report of what's upcoming on the meeting agenda for the very next day. It's by then it should be published, so that we can have a voice and at least speak up. I mean, if there's going to be funding diverted from Nassau County, there should be a comment made or a question asked. It should not just be a no discussion item. That's all I ask. I continue to express my desire to be on the TPO. And I will reiterate that one more time.
Okay. I don't know how you do that.
Well, you're making appointments, so
Well, you're.
there isn't really any discussion.
for Commissioner Cole, usually because he's chairman, usually would report back to us, but if you'd like to do that.
You're welcome to come, and then you could
Is
even
that okay?
appoint her as the.
To do that? If you
I
want to do that?
You only get one appointment, so she probably.
Talk about.
We always talk
get
about,
one,
yeah, we always talk about having a meeting where we all come, all the commissioners come up there and see the TPO and see their EOC, the Emergency Operations Center, and see what actually goes on there.
If you want to take that committee and go to those meetings,
I would love to do that.
all right, you got it. Is that okay with you?
I think she could come, but she wouldn't be able to report. I would still have to do the reporting, because they have 7 authorities.
Reporting over there.
Correct.
There, yes, yes, but she can
Speaking
report
on
back to
behalf.
us.
But they only give us one seat.
Yeah, one vote.
Correct.
One vote.
Okay, but they're only giving us one seat. So
But you're not gonna be on the North Florida TPO board.
No,
You're gonna-
you can't replace him on the board. That's an elected position, and he's been elected to it.
And that can
If
be,
that's what you were looking at.
that can be next year. That
Yeah.
would be great.
Yeah.
To do it next year.
Okay.
But
But
you're
it's
more
not,
than
it's not,
welcome at
it's
any time.
not sunshine or public.
As long as you don't discuss.
It's a noticed meeting.
Okay.
It's a
Yeah.
public noticed meeting.
Okay.
All of their, they operate in sunshine.
If there's 2 of us, then, you know, we can bully up on them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, the more FaceTime you have with Jeff Sheffield, the director of the TPO, the better.
My understanding is Jeff is coming up in January, 30 years there too. But he's also coming up for a tour, I think, with your.
We're talking about it.
And you mentioned he was going to come up here in January.
Right. Him to come up here, but we need to get where we can come there and see the place there. So,
Quite an operation.
Okay. All right, we'll switch you then to the TPO. That's your committee. I'm gonna take the city of Fernandina this time. I'm gonna try to attend every meeting that I can. Get involved a little more with the city. Would you continue to be the Nassau Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Hill?
I'm just interested in how we get more information in these committee reports, because a lot of times it's just nothing to report or just. public
Well, you gotta go to the
information.
meetings or,
Yeah, and I do, but I would like to see some type of like. Involvement from the chamber. So could I attend their meetings and maybe elicit feedback from them?
Absolutely.
Because I talk to Regina probably monthly, but.
Yeah.
It's not like a full report.
up to that cruise ships.
We talk about that, so-
Yeah, okay, good. All right,
So can we appoint other people to our committee? If these are committees, it's committee of one.
Well, you have to be careful with that.
yeah, because
Right, if you're talking to Regina and you're sharing it with a committee member, now you're.
A public meeting.
Then it's a public meeting. So if you.
But we're
form
not
a
I need
committee-
notes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you could form a committee that includes chamber board members, but it would have to be publicly noticed on.
There's more than one of you there.
Us,
If it's just you and a bunch of them,
you wouldn't have to find.
Okay.
we can talk about that.
Okay.
And you can always, if you wanted to, you can always bring me along and I can then talk to you.
Yeah, that's All right, the last committee, this is a new one, it's called Community Outreach, and Commissioner Hill, I'd like for you to do this. Now, let me explain to you what I mean by this. It refers to the efforts that connect OPA's ideas and practices to the public. It takes on an educational component that engages the community and the strategies that are linked to OPA's mission, vision, and goals. And I think you can run with that. You know a lot of people in the community. You'd be able to sit in some of these meetings that the city has, some committees, and sit with them and talk to them about OPA's goals and the purpose and the vision that we have. And anything you can do there would help us a great deal. I think you'd be great at it.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you for taking that. All right, administrative office managers report. Do you have anything, Rosanna?
The full board has my written report.
Right.
And it's in the meeting packet. I would like to report that the CSX right away is paid. And also the port operator requested that OPA pays for the renewal of Rivers Pest Control contract. Is that 600?
So they have been in contact with them.
Correct. And so OPA will pay the 600 and then we will be reimbursed by the port operator.
Okay. Here. Can do that.
Mhm.
Okay, very good. All right. Any other items to be brought before the commission?
I would just like to say, if this is our last meeting at this location, that we should thank FSCJ and thank the Department of Economic Development. However we can, because they saved us
Yes.
from not having mistakes. Like, that was awesome. There you go.
When we finish here, we don't come back anymore. We'll definitely write them a letter.
Make sure we
Yes,
bring some
absolutely.
fudge.
Matter of fact, Donna Martin's the one that got us here. We will definitely do that, and she's not gonna be director here very much longer, she's retiring. So. We'll definitely make sure we get a letter to her. Get it, anybody else? Yes,
Mr. Chair, I noticed tonight we have a lot of guests.
yes,
Board. Was there something agenda that anyone you would like to say or?
yeah, just come here and watch late at night. Yeah,
Support all of you, because that's what we're here for. We're here for the future of the port.
thank you.
So we get a,
Yeah, get it all done, yeah.
honestly,
How about just standing up for me quickly and tell us who you are? I think you know who you guys are.
Well, I'm Rivius Hardy.
I know Rivius very well. I taught Rivius.
Yes, you did. And I've been to the port for 22 years and hopefully I get to get a race spot.
Yeah.
So.
Come on, Jim.
Introduce yourselves.
Tell them who you are.
John Florkowitz, working operations at the port site Rivius. Where Ray stepped out of, but day-to-day operations. Every day, the truck loading, working with the team, and that's what we are. We're a team. We wear a uniform. We're all on the same team in order to be able to complete the port's business.
Are you the train operator?
I am not.
No.
Who's next?
I'm Christian Police, worked with Ray for about a year now. At the port, good man, good company to be with. And excited to see the future of the port. And hopefully start going through more meetings, see what's actually going on.
Good deal.
Joshua Baker, been at the port, started early April. Worker out there.
They treat you good?
Yeah, they're all good.
Yeah.
It's fun.
My name is Gene Horn, I'm a driver.
Driver.
As simple as that.
And then the back few riders and been to the port about 5 years. And Mr. Ray is a good guy. I'll give you a good man. Yeah, you know.
Come on, Chris.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. My name is Christopher Bailey. Been working at the port for about 12 years. I love the port. I love the port. Like for it to go a lot further. It took care of my family, and I like for it to do the same for the upcoming guys.
Mr. Chairman, if I may add,
Yes.
October of 2011, my watch started at Port Fernandina. Today at 1600, I had an end of watch. And it was tough leaving these guys.
I know it was.
It was difficult. I've spent over 40 years, actually 43 years, 1 month and 14 days on the waterfront. And I would put this group of men up against any that I've ever worked with. What you're seeing sitting here tonight is the sprockets and the gears that make that place roll out there.
We know that.
When it comes to working ships, these are the men you want on the dock. And Gentlemen, I thank you. It's been a pleasure working with you. And I look forward to what the future may bring.
Thank you, John.
And
Thank you.
also, if you guys, anytime you have issues, you can contact Ray, you can contact any one of us. And we'll try to our best to get it worked out for you. You got an operator that you work for, he'll take care of most of that. I think you've got a better operator now. And I think you'll all agree with that.
Yes.
Yeah, and I just really believe that the port's gonna go forward from here and be a better place for you to work and we're gonna do what we can to make it better. So thank you for being here. Come anytime you want. You contact us anytime you want. We got a guest here.
Oh, yeah. I'm Steve Newman. I'm in the legal department of Savage,
Yeah.
Patrick's counterpart. And
Yeah.
I had the option of visiting North Dakota, like a crude oil terminal in North Dakota.
Come here.
So come here. And I definitely was gonna come here. So anyway, thanks.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, it's been fun touring and just meeting people. So
Come back anytime.
appreciate it.
So are you just visiting or?
Yeah. Yeah, we're supposed to visit 2 or 3 sites a year and helps to understand what we're negotiating contracts for and so I needed to get one before the end of the year and I'm just barely sneaking it in and decided to come to.
You can go to North Dakota and tell them.
Oh, yeah, yeah, well, meanwhile, back home in Utah, it's got to put a snow on.
Oh, yeah.
the ground, so I'm really enjoying it here.
Utah, sitting in a picture and it's just piled up,
Yeah,
piled up.
absolutely. It's good to meet you. Thanks.
Yeah, you do. Thanks. All right, move on there. I would like to wish all of you a very Merry Christmas, be safe. And enjoy your Christmas with your families if that's the case, and we'll see you next year. All right, meeting adjourned.